So fielding the 68, it's our bracketology show. Don't worry, I don't provide analysis on that. Okay. They had a new episode today, 5 p.m. Eastern, Monday and Friday. You can watch that on the Field of 68 YouTube channel. We got some of the best bracketologists in the game. And our consensus bracket today, gentlemen, has both North Carolina and Kentucky in the last four in. It's a pretty exciting potential first four play-in games in Dayton. How surprising is that to you guys at this point? Obviously, Carolina's coming off the Duke loss. That's not great. They were underdogs in that game. Kentucky's had a bunch of downs and maybe a few ups over the last month. But do you think both these teams will remain in this section, or is this like the low point before the rise and they end up comfortably in? T.O., what do you think?
Guys, there's no bubble with Carolina and Kentucky. They either have to be so bad you have to make them miss the tournament, or they're in the tournament. There's no bubble. Both of those teams are getting in the tournament if it started today. No questions asked. And they might actually get like a 6 or a 7 seed because those teams are getting in. They are all the way out or all the way in. There is no bubble. I'm sorry. Today,
I actually agree with you.
Huge win at Tennessee. Probably one of the more impressive wins so far this season at Tennessee. And then Carolina, I mean, guys, they haven't been outside of a 2-week stretch at the end of November. Like, they haven't been that horrible.
Like, well, here's the problem with North Carolina, and this is what I didn't really realize until I dug into it for this exact segment, is that they don't have any good wins. They haven't beaten anybody this year. Everybody worth a shit that they've played this season, they've lost to. And it's been close losses, and it's been competitive losses. It was a 5-point loss to Iowa State. It was a 4 overtime loss to Alabama. They lost by 8 to Virginia Tech. They lost by 12 at Indiana, but that was a little bit closer than a 12-point game. 2 at Pitt, 7 at UVA, which was basically a 1-possession game. They lost by 1 at home to Pitt. They lost by 6 at Duke, which was basically a 1-possession game, right?
And after every one of those losses, they rose in the net. Yeah, because nobody knows what's happening in the net.
All right, forget the net, okay?
All right, sorry.
Do you know who their best win is right now by all the metrics?
Ohio
State. Ohio State is their quad one win right now because they beat them on a neutral court, and they were ranked 42nd in the net right now, right? After that, it's like Michigan, who's not going to make the NCAA tournament. Sorry, grade.
Hey.
And then NC State at home. Those are their wins. That's what they have right now. Now, keep in mind, this is what they play the rest of the season. They're at Wake, which is a quad 1 game. They get Clemson at home, quad 2 game. They get Miami at home, quad 2 game, might end up being a quad 1 game depending on how things break out. At NC State, quad 1. Virginia at home, quad 1. Duke at home, quad 1. So they got a ton of opportunities. Same thing with Kentucky. But Kentucky's in a little bit of a different situation because they have a great win and they also have a horrific loss and like nothing in between. They've accomplished nothing in between. But again, they get Arkansas, Tennessee, at Florida, Auburn, at Mississippi State, at Arkansas down the stretch of the season. So, like, they're going to have their opportunities. They're going to have chances to improve their resume. And if they don't, then they're going to end up probably being like a playing game team unless it's so incredibly obvious that they shouldn't be in the dance that they can't get in. But I'm with T.O. on this. Remember in 2021? When no one thought that UCLA was going to end up being good enough and no one really thought Michigan State was going to end up being good enough, and the committee just kind of said, you know what, fuck it. Let's put them in the playing game. Let's make people care about Dayton. They ended up going to overtime. They had a great game. It was the highest rated game that we've seen in Dayton to date. Imagine what would happen if you put Kentucky and North Carolina in Dayton with North Carolina coming off of that run, preseason #1 team, and maybe possibly the last game that we're ever going to see Coach Cal coach at Kentucky, and you put that in Dayton in the first 4 as the first game you play in the NCAA tournament. I think people would like that. I think people would tune in and watch.
I'm not mad at that.
So it's all rigged. That's what you're saying, Rob.
What I'm saying is that there are 12
we're naive to think that it's not a money-making endeavor here, Greg.
Yes, there are 12 human beings in that room that are making these decisions, right? That's my biggest thing with all of this is that you think that everything is just so perfectly lined up with the net and with these metrics and all. It's just a bunch of dudes in a room like us making a decision. It just so happens that they happen to have higher level degrees and a certain salary.
They're not dudes like
for a
us,
school
Rob.
or a conference or whatever, right? They got a bunch of people in a room making a decision. And they probably argue just as much as we do, just, maybe with a little bit less of the brown water.
We're dropping our merch.
We got to start calling Underwood Daddy Brad. But I'm a big pod guy.